Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Tyree from On the Pod Podcast. Today, I have some bonus content for you guys. The bonus content we'll be covering today will be in the sport of football inside the NFL world. In today's bonus segment, I'll be sharing my favorite NFL dynasties of all time. So these three franchises I do believe had the best NFL dynasties of all time. Spoiler alert, they are in the conversation for the most rings of all time in the NFL, just a heads up. But as we go along, dynasty number one would have to be the Dallas Cowboys. That dynasty that happened in the 90s was absolutely spectacular and was one of the best dynasties in NFL history. The only thing as a Cowboys fan, it just didn't last longer. And I wasn't alive for it because I am 25 years of age. And as you guys see by the poster behind me, I am a diehard Cowboys fan. But I wish my mom popped me out the womb faster to see that, if I could see that, because what the Cowboys did in the 90s was pure excellence. And they got the nickname America's team for a reason, being an excellent franchise in the 90s. And the dynamic trio of Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, one of the greatest trios in NFL history. What those three did for the Dallas Cowboys franchise, turning that franchise around from not too long ago before all three came to the league, was on a 1-15 season. And when all three of those guys finally got there, they turned things around and went on a dynasty run in the NFL in the 90s. They went on to win 3 Super Bowls in a matter of a 4-year span together. And not only did the dynasty have those 3 Hall of Famers, they also had Jerry Jones, the mastermind behind it all, the owner who is a Hall of Famer in his own right, orchestrated this whole thing together. You had Jimmy Johnson as the head coach that helped win 2 out of 3 of those Super Bowls. Same with Deion Sanders, one of the greatest cornerbacks of all time. Man, if the Cowboys could just get back to those glory days of the 90s, that would be great for me because the franchise deserves it. But what we saw in the 90s and what the Cowboys did has to be in the conversation for one of the greatest dynasties in NFL history. Now, moving on to the next one would be the San Francisco 49ers dynasty that went on from 1981 to 1994. Now, the San Francisco 49ers, just like the Dallas Cowboys, are in the conversation for most rings of all time. They have 5 rings just like the Dallas Cowboys do. But the 49ers dynasty was pretty cool to look back upon as I was not around being a youngster. But looking back at it, Bill Walsh changed the landscape of the NFL's offensive scheme. The West Coast offense was something that took over the NFL offensively, and Bill Walsh was a great offensive-minded head coach. The West Coast offense was brilliant, and you had Joe Montana that made the offense look spectacular. The West Coast offense looked like $1 million. Joe Montana went on to become one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time to play the position. And then you had one of the greatest sports duos in sports history. Forget the NFL, sports history, with Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. Joe Montana being one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Jerry Rice being the greatest wide receiver of all time. They had a lot of success together, and that duo took over. Not only did that happen, but in the midst of this dynasty, you had a change at the quarterback position. The franchise went from Joe Montana and put the franchise in the palm of their hands of Steve Young. It's not easy to take over for one of the greatest of all time of Joe Montana, but Steve Young played the part in that. A great left-handed quarterback, great mobile guy, went on to win a Super Bowl with the 49ers in their own sake during this run. And I have to say, for what they did, the 49ers have to be in the conversation for one of the greatest dynasties of NFL history as well. Now, last but not least, the greatest dynasty of all time in NFL history has to be the New England Patriots run from 2001 to 2019. Now, a lot of people dislike Tom Brady because Tom Brady, what did he do best? He won all the time. But when you look back at it, you really have to appreciate greatness because we might not see something like that ever happen again in NFL history. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes of this generation could come close or surpass Tom Brady, but for now, we have to enjoy what Tom Brady did because I call him the greatest football player to ever put on a pair of football pads in NFL history. He has 7 Super Bowls, more rings than any franchise in NFL history. But what Tom Brady and Bill Belichick did together and creating this dynasty for the Patriots, they turned this franchise around and dominated for nearly 20 years. That is a hard thing to do in the world of sports, but that's what Tom Brady and Bill Belichick did. In their time together in New England, they went on to win 11 division titles, had 9 Super Bowl appearances, won 6 Super Bowls, overcame one of the greatest comebacks in sports history when they overcame a 28-3 deficit against the Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl. That game went into overtime, and Tom Brady and the Patriots won that Super Bowl. You have to put them as the greatest dynasty in NFL history from what they accomplished in New England. That New England Patriots run for 2001 to 2019 in terms of dynasty runs may never be duplicated again in NFL history. But that is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off, and I'll see you guys on next week's episode.